Speaking of championships and teams that have at one point won the NBA championship, the Golden State Warriors clearly not the same team that they were a couple years ago. But it doesn't mean that we don't get the traditional and periodic heroic effort from Steph Curry, a guy who's a two-time league MVP, one-time unanimous league MVP. So Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors came back late to beat the Milwaukee Bucks 122-121 last night. But I don't really care about the end result. I don't really care about the score. This is just a regular, meaningless game on a Tuesday in the middle of March. Steph Curry dropped 41 points, the fourth time this year that he has scored 40-plus points in a game. I don't really care about that. But here's what I do care about. Just because you know something is going to happen doesn't mean that when it happens, it's not impressive. And it should be downplayed. Just because we knew going into the Summer Olympics that Michael Phelps was the prohibitive favorite in Beijing to win the gold medal, just because he ended up not winning one, but winning 8 in the same Olympics, doesn't diminish how impressive that was. Just because when Barcelona has a free kick, we know Lionel Messi's going to take the free kick, even though the goalie knows the only 2 spots he's going to score it in are the top right corner of the box or the top left corner of the box, it doesn't diminish how impressive it is when he executes that to perfection, even though we know that's what's going to happen. With Steph Curry, this entire year, this entire season for the Warriors, everyone knew the scouting report. Everyone has the same scouting report on the Warriors. There's no Clay. Draymond is limited offensively. Andrew Wiggins is inconsistent from 3. Kelly Oubre has started to pick up his pace, but he's been inconsistent from 3. The only guy that they have is Steph Curry. What's the game plan? Guard Steph Curry. Defend the three-point line. Make someone else beat you. James Wiseman is too young. He still has a lot more maturing and growing to do for this team. Everyone's got the same scouting report. The playbook is the same year in and year out. But this time, you can really hone in on one guy. And yet, just because we know what the game book is, just because we have the scouting report, doesn't deny the greatness that we're seeing. Doesn't deny how impactful this one individual is, not only to the league, but to his entire team. Because I love the phrase out of sight, out of mind. Because it's one of the most apt adages we can use to describe Steph Curry. People forget Steph Curry played in the NBA last year because he was injured pretty much the entire season. He broke his hand after 5 games into the year. The Warriors had the worst record in the NBA, 15-50. They were absolutely horrific. They were terrible last year. Just a complete shell of themselves. And so everyone kind of put Steph Curry to the back of their minds. They just locked him up in the back of their minds and forgot how truly incredible this guy is. And if it wasn't for the 10th seed in the Western Conference, if the Warriors were not just the 10th seed in the Western Conference, if they were maybe the same record as the Portland Trailblazers, Steph Curry would be garnering more consideration for MVP this year. This year, he's averaging 29.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists on over 40.5% shooting from the three-point line. And that is on 11.5 attempts per game. 48% from the floor, 93% from the three-point line, from the free throw line, rather. Over his last 4 games that he's played, these are Steph's numbers. 32 points, 36 points, 37 points, 41 points on 46% shooting from the three-point line. Now, I don't want to over-exaggerate. I don't want to embellish here or overreact because Giannis was not playing for Milwaukee last night. And that's why I don't glean too much from the actual outcome itself, although Steph did score 11 points in the fourth quarter. But what is noteworthy and what I do appreciate that people lack appreciating nowadays, because everyone views the regular season as just pish-posh and doesn't mean anything, is that the competitiveness still lies within Steph. that drive, that hunger, desire to win. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is, doesn't matter if it's a meaningless game, doesn't matter what their records are. He wants to compete and he wants to win. And just because Draymond Green a couple of days ago pretty much poo-pooed the play-in tournament and said he's not motivated by trying to be a play-in team this year, just because Draymond Green said that, Steph Curry doesn't feel that way. Because the way that he's playing right now with the roster constructed around him, he's playing like he's trying to compete for a championship. Now, whether or not he does, that's to be determined. That's to be argued. I don't think, nor does anyone else think that the Warriors are going to win an NBA championship this year, but it doesn't deny the fact that he's playing to win. And this is a guy that has epitomized competition and competitiveness throughout his entire career. This is what I appreciate so much about Steph and what we were missing last year and when the Warriors were down was the joy that Steph plays with, that effervescent spirit that he plays with, that passion. That's contagious not only to the Warriors team, to their organization, but to us as fans. We want to consume more of that. Because when you watch Steph Curry, you see someone not like LeBron in stature where you're saying there's no way I could emulate anything he's doing. You see Steph step a foot inside half court and launch a three-pointer using a traditional shooting form. You want to emulate that. And again, it doesn't matter what stage of the season it is. It doesn't matter what the records are. He goes out and competes, and we forgot just how extremely talented this guy is. And again, if the Warriors didn't have the record that they had, this is not DeMarcus Cousins with the Sacramento Kings, where the Sacramento Kings were abysmal, and he was trying to garner all-star consideration. No, this is Steph Curry, a two-time MVP, a three-time NBA champion, the best shooter of all time, the greatest shooter of all time, still working his tail off to try and fight for a scrappy Golden State Warriors team that has really no business with their roster competing for an NBA championship. I predicted they would at least make the playoffs. They seem to be on pace to compete for that. But again, I just love the passion that he's been displaying because we don't see it enough from a lot of these star players who take the regular season for granted. And I think we're seeing with Steph Curry that because of his extended absence last year, he's appreciating, he is soaking in this moment right now, this season, for himself and for the Golden State Warriors fan base. So major shout out to him. That was an impressive performance, a comeback win, 122-121 over the Milwaukee Bucks. And